Hello, welcome back. All right. Today we're going to revisit some of the concepts that we used in the early quarantine days. And we're going to spend today working on the quality of effortless movement in the body. I really believe that if we practice moving with less effort, we quickly develop habits and patterns that revolve around that concept. And we start to, throughout the day, use less effort. This gives us a little bit more efficiency, and we can save our energy for things that I find more impactful on my life, like making decisions or staving off bad dietary choices, things like that. But if we burn too much extra energy gripping the doors very hard and staying tense all the time, it becomes very difficult to reserve willpower for more important decisions. So we're going to try to increase our efficiency by moving effortlessly today. Okay. I'm going to start with the drinking bird exercise, rocking front to back, letting the arms circle the knees. And we're just going to try to get as relaxed and sleepy as possible while we focus on using as little effort as possible. Now, this can be, basically, it's a never-ending well that you can dive into. The concept of using less effort for any movement, you can never really find the bottom. You can always release a little bit more. Even as I move here, I can relax my toes a little bit more. I can relax the back of my knees more, right? So we want to constantly, throughout the next half hour together here, be trying to minimize the amount of activity in the body while we still complete the movements. Okay? So let's just get warmed up here with some easy drinking bird stuff, getting the spine warmed up. Feeling the weight shifting forwards to the feet and back to the hips. Just barely using any effort to move the arms around. Trying to let the weight of the body pull us forward so we don't actually have to lean forward, right? Gravity pulls us forward for free. Don't over tense the legs on the way up, right? Try to remain as released and soft as possible. Again, just being so lazy with the shoulders. Quieting the mind down, letting the breath start to lengthen. Notice how as we relax more and more, it's actually much easier for the blood to flow through the body. As you focus on deeply relaxing the arms, you may feel the hands start to heat up very quickly. This is great. Try to feel the blood flowing. Right? One of the major culprits for high blood pressure is just chronic tension in the body. Right? As we relax the body and the mind, we also release the blood vessels. And this relaxation on a deeper level allows us to have an easier time for our cardiovascular system and healthier blood flow to our cells. Okay. I'm going to start to develop the movement here into a little bit of rotation. Again, we need to keep in a range where it feels basically effortless to do this. Right? And of course, it takes some effort. But the goal is to find the Goldilocks principle, right? Not too hot, not too cold. But during movement, throughout this session, we want to keep trying to lower that bar of what the Goldilocks principle is, right? We just want to get less and less effort, right? Especially in this movement around the knees, a lot of people tend to keep the fingers rigid as they ride along the leg, or they tend to squeeze against the thigh quite a bit. We don't need any of that. The fingers are just there for the ride, just getting swept along. And the rotation, if we rotate past where our flexibility lies, right? To go to here, this requires effort for me. I feel the abs working to turn. I don't want to go there. I'm using only the area of rotation that feels very easy and effortless. Again, lengthening the breath, trying to release the mind. And to clarify, releasing the mind is a little bit vague, but in this case, we want to draw the mind into the body and turn the awareness into the movement. Ideally, with enough practice, we can forget about our thoughts and just be completely absorbed in the effortless rotation of the spine, or even just the basic feeling of light friction of your palms along the legs. The more we dive into the body as we do these exercises, the more the mind can release subconsciously. It just lets go on its own as you give it something pleasant to focus on. Right? In this case, the pleasantry is the movement. It's another important concept when trying to develop effortless movement. You have to try to enjoy the movement. Simply doing the movements alone is good and healthy, like we do every day here. But if you want to really go to the next level, you need to kind of install the pleasure and the effortlessness into the movement. It's a bit of a fake it till you make it scenario, but it's not a big stretch. If you move comfortably, you will see, yeah, it feels good in my shoulders to move this way. Right? I'm not stressing them, I'm just giving them nice, gentle movement. And when you can tune into some pleasurable movement in the body, then you're really, really doing the good work. Because you can follow that and start to listen to the body in terms of what it actually wants. Because if you really listen closely, it will tell you, this feels good, this doesn't feel good. I like doing this, I don't like doing that. And the best part is the adjustments tend to come automatically. All you need to do is turn the awareness inwards and look for the pleasure of the movement. When you found that, you just stick with it and try to enjoy it. Okay, right now I feel something a little bit tense in my spine, so I'm going to bring my awareness away from that and into my shoulders, which are feeling pretty nice in this movement. And I'm just going to focus on the pleasantry of the shoulders right now. As you focus on the good feelings of the movement, you may feel the rest of your body start to adjust to get in line and feel good as well. For example, even that brief moment where I wasn't speaking and breathing, I noticed that my pelvis tilted forwards a little bit to correct my posture, and I stopped feeling the tension in my lower back. But this happened automatically just by paying attention to the good feelings in my shoulder and giving my mind and body a quick break to look inwards and focus on what feels good. These concepts are similar to the concepts used in transcendental meditation, in which there are basically 3 parameters that you use when repeating the mantra inside of your mind. One of them is effortlessness, and the other one is faintness. And the faintness applies to the non-specificity of the movement. For example, yes, I'm doing this thing around my knees, but I'm not so concerned with if it's the same every time I go around the knees. This is not the point. In fact, I'm happy to let it be different every time. And also the subtlety of the movement is what's so important too. To think I'm not controlling the movement, but feeling effortlessness, faintness. The movements are small without being aggressive. They don't activate the body too much. It stays fairly faint. And then the non-attachment aspect is the third aspect of using a transcendental mantra. The non-attachment is the willingness to forget the mantra during meditation. Here we can do the same. The willingness to forget what you're doing is a very valuable tool, because this allows the body and mind to subconsciously do whatever business it's trying to do when you activate your healing cycle. Okay, so let's take a minute here as we just dive into the mind with some easy breathing and try to focus on those 3 parameters: effortlessness, non-attachment, and faintness of the movement. Right? If you want to use a smaller movement and try to develop the faintness of the movement, great. If you want to focus just on the effortlessness, excellent. If you want to just zone out and let the body move on its own and focus on the non-attachment, also great. Okay, let's take a minute and explore some of these parameters here. Good, my arms are feeling pretty good. Let's develop the movements now into something more practical for life. So you turn the palms up, you can feel the energy now buzzing from the friction, the circulation is alive. Okay, I want to practice reaching a little bit. Okay, so we're just going to practice letting the arm go out and come around. And each time the arm goes out, I feel the arm get longer. And as it comes down, I feel it rest deeper. It's a longer arm every time, right? Coming up. Now, some of the tricks to lifting the arm effortlessly. You can see how my wrist does nothing. Right? The wrist is not activated. The wrist is dead. Right? Another aspect, the elbow remains soft and actually hanging down a little bit, right? I'm not picking the elbow up. This takes quite a bit more effort. To let the arm hang effortlessly, the elbow usually needs to drop under a little bit. And as we come up, also I'm just following the path of least resistance in my body. If I had a shoulder injury and this hurt, I would probably be going here, right? So you're looking just to develop some paths away from the body that feel as effortless as possible. Some other imagery that really helps with this work is to imagine that all of your bones are hollow. If you can imagine the bone structure being very light, it oftentimes feels easier to move the limbs. One other mental trick I use is to imagine that you're actually underwater, right? You don't have to imagine that it's water you're moving through, but if you simply try to sense all of the air around the limb, you end up with a mental imagery that is more of the limb being supported by all of the air around it, right? More like the arms are floating in air. Again, these are all just mental tricks. What we're really doing is just trying to use the imagery to get our body to move the way it wants to, nice and easily. I'm not worried about stretching at all, just producing effortless movement. You may start to feel that the movement gets bigger, but it should remain just as easy as it did at the beginning. No effort, smooth, no pressure in the joints. Good. Let's move into the spine now and see if we can loosen this up a little bit. Moving up and down. Again, here we want to really focus on not using any effort to come back up. As we get down here, try to come up as lazily as possible while maintaining some effortless rotation through the spine. Also on the way down, notice that I really try to maintain effortlessness by keeping the body close to itself. I don't dive out in front, putting the head over here. As you can see, when the head goes forward, this makes a lot of effort for the back of the neck. If I just collapse down through gravity, taking the path of least resistance, and again on the way up, following this in reverse, keeping everything close, compact, light, and easy. Okay, let's move to a standing position to continue this work. Here's a great example. I now need to move this bench. As you can see, my arms are hanging effortlessly, and I'm just going to keep the whole body compact, use as little effort as possible, very carefully. No effort. Even my grip was as little as possible, mostly using the friction of my fingers to lift the bench rather than gripping and lifting. Okay? If it's something heavier, yeah, you need to pressurize and stabilize. That's different. But for now, easy things like when you have a cup of coffee or turning on the faucet, doing some dishes, you don't want to be gripping all the time because it goes up into the shoulders and the neck. Okay, so here we are moving effortlessly. And we're just going to get a sense for shifting weight from leg to leg using as little effort as possible. All right, no need to push ourselves over or try to engage the hips or the core. Just shifting easily while you use the mind's eye to focus on the movement of the hip joints. And as the mind inhabits the hips, try to feel the pleasure of the movement. Try to feel that, yes, it feels good to move my hip joint. Nice. Right, opening the stance very slightly now and staying just where it feels as effortless as possible. Right, so as I dip over to one side, in fact, I'm trying to avoid the stretch and hoping that with enough repetitions in the next few minutes, my stance will continue to get wider and wider with the same amount of effort. Right, shifting from side to side, taking the path of least resistance, whatever's most comfortable for your body. And while we sway back and forth, we're going to take attention to the breathing system now. And we also want to make the breath as effortless as possible. This is not as complicated as it sounds. You don't need to do anything specific. Again, you just bring the mind's eye into the breathing movement. And notice when you breathe in, do you feel tension somewhere? Right now, I feel some tension in my upper ribs. Okay? So I'm going to just continue to breathe easy while I keep the mind's eye right there on the upper ribs. Releasing with every exhale. Great. As I focus on just making the breath easy without overinflating the lungs, which causes effort to try to fill bigger than we want to, the breath has naturally expanded on its own. And it feels much easier for me to breathe into the upper ribs. Okay, I'm going to widen the stance here again. And while this is going to take some considerable effort from the leg to hold us, again, the point is not to do effortlessness tasks, but to do them effortlessly. So even a movement that takes strength from the leg, we still want to think, can I relax the foot that's holding me up? How relaxed is this leg? How relaxed are my shoulders? Is my neck released, right? As we move back and forth, it's okay that the body starts to do work, but you want the body to decide what work to do while you continuously feed the concept of effortless nature into your joints. Right? Don't grip the floor with the toes. Don't try to stabilize or hold the knee any one way. Don't try to squeeze the abs. Let everything go and let the body move how it wants. If you feel moving deep into the movement causes pain, just move in a more shallow direction. But again, don't try to control the movement. Just try to release all the components, letting the breath and mind go at the same time. Avoid feeling any particular pressure inside of the hip joints. For example, while I make this movement, if I try to let my hips go back a little bit, I get a bit of a tug in the inner thigh. And for me, this feels like more tension than I want right now. It feels like effort, some strain, some discomfort. So far, I'm moving pretty nicely. So I'm going to keep the hips nice and square over the feet and just move side to side, letting the body be easy. Right? That's the same concept as when we roll down. We want to stay close to the body using no effort to go down and very minimal effort to come back up, as opposed to letting the body go forwards, which immediately requires big effort from the back. So as we shift side to side, trying to feel the ankles flexing, the knees flexing how they want, the hips flexing how they like, and we're just force feeding the body, no effort, be lazy. Okay, let's start to add a little bit of a pattern to this. We're turning the feet out and getting a straight lunge. Turning the feet and moving. Okay, so we're making these pivot in the feet. And this movement becomes quite functional. This is oftentimes how I approach doors to open. Right? If I want to open this door, I would stand here, effortlessly put the hand, and I push. Right? The same movement. Reaching and taking. Reaching and taking. Staying no effort, easy where the joints go. This is the same movement for shoveling snow, scraping, mopping, right? All the same. We can always move easily with the body. Great. Now let's start to open the arms up a little bit, trying to get the chest to open. Again, staying with the effortlessness nature of this movement. So the wrists stay soft, the elbows stay down. And when you start to really dive into moving effortlessly, you start to perceive the difference in how your body wants you to move and how you thought you were supposed to move, right? Because basically you force the body to figure out the movement by not helping it. When we help the body, we tend to do things like raise the shoulder or stiffen the wrist or elbow. We become hard in the movement because we think we're doing a service. We think we're making strength and stability. But we're really just creating tension, reducing the circulation to the area, and on a deeper level, we're losing the fluid power that's possible when the joints are released. Okay? So actually keeping the body very relaxed, we just have to kind of observe how it gets used to moving in a new way. And you need that as part of the unattachment aspect of any type of meditation. You need to accept that change may come at any moment, and that perhaps moving with less effort, you're going to start to understand, oh, my shoulder actually moves differently than I thought it did. Or perhaps I can feel a different quality or aspect of the movement that I couldn't feel before. And that's what we're really after today. Okay, now how about a hard movement like reaching overhead, right? what is the easiest way to do that? We want to stay close to the body. So I like the idea as if you were going to rub the back of your neck. I use this movement to get the arm up. And from here, you can then just push straight up. And again, to come back down, it comes down the back of the head and down the body. All right, if we want to effortlessly stretch, we just add a little bit of movement. Again, looking only to the point where it feels no effort, minimal effort, no crunchiness in the joints, nothing stacking in a weird way, no pinching in the spine, just easy movement. Great. Now let's pay attention to the ankles. How to use ankles effortlessly. This is a great topic. Okay. When we walk, we've gone over this before, always good to review. The back leg must travel through this position with the ankle. The most important moment here. Right? If you pick up like this, you're in big problems. You're going to be very stiff. Right? If you roll through the toes, let the ankle point a little bit and pick from the heel with good articulation through the foot. You're going to have a nice fluid movement in the feet. Okay? But in order to make that movement actually effortless for the ankle, there can be no weight on the foot. Right? So if we step, we need to transfer all the weight first before this easy ankle can go. To feel the weightlessness, we just shift the weight to one foot like we've been doing for the last 10 minutes, right? So we're just going to hang on one side, and this leg should be pretty loose. And we just go up and down with the ankle and try to feel how easy it is to move inside of the joint. Switching from side to side, making sure all of the weight is on one leg so that this leg is free to roam the universe. And then we just kind of pump through the ankle and feel with the mind's eye how easy it is to move through the joint. It's not difficult. It only takes a little bit of practice and effort to get the ankle joint to straighten all the way. And you should feel the lightness of the foot on the ground. This means that there's no pressure on the foot, right? All the weight is through my standing leg. Easy movements in the ankle. Right now, if we bring this back to our actual pattern, we need to move in a way that we shift the weight fully before effortlessly moving the ankle up and down once, then shifting up and down, shifting up and down. In this movement, if you really have been releasing the body this whole time, you'll start to notice that any flexing of the leg, any flexing of the hip, will draw the body into a rotation naturally. And this is supposed to happen. If to resist this rotation requires tension in the stomach, in the abs, and in the standing hip, if I want to lift like this, you can feel clearly this takes a lot of tension. If you just lift effortlessly, you'll notice the body twists towards that leg, and there's no effort involved. Right? If you stay completely straight, this actually takes considerable tension to counteract that natural twisting movement that the raising of the hip is supposed to draw us into. So see if you can notice, just by pedaling the legs and lifting the knees like this, right? We're not lifting so high, just enough that the hip flexor pulls on the front of the pelvis, which draws it in and causes us to rotate. Right? That's all we want to feel. And if you notice how the rotation of the body is actually driven by the lifting of the legs. Right? Then you can see that I'm not actually using my spine necessarily to make this rotation. The arms are swinging because they're hanging, and my chest is rotating because I'm not stiffening my core at all. And when I lift each leg, it draws me into that rotation. All right, so now we can see that the whole walking mechanism, all of the rotation, the weight shifting, the arm swing, the ankle movement, is all based on the single concept that lifting one leg with a released spine will cause the weight to shift correctly, dropping us onto the standing leg and pulling our shoulder back by drawing us into the hip that's flexing. Okay? And all we need to do is not resist the forces that travel through the body when you lift one leg. In this way, we can take this exaggerated walking pattern, right? If I just tailor the arms a little bit, I can walk forward pretty easily, and it doesn't seem ridiculous. You can see clearly the shoulders rotating, but I'm not walking on the catwalk. It's not extreme. But if you've never done this before, it can sometimes feel that way, right? Because you're used to walking with a stiff core, you're used to walking more like this, or worse, like this, right? If you have some lateral deviation waddle from tight hips, or the opposite, you're lifting the hips all the time, right? Any of this stuff, or shifting too much, all that stuff needs to be replaced with a single movement, flexing the hip and effortlessness in the body. So we get a nice swinging rotation that happens for free. Okay, let's return to our seated position. We'll round this out now. Okay. Good, time flies when you're being effortless. I thought we still had some time, but it's already overtime, right? So that's great. If we are moving comfortably, you don't want to stop because it feels good for the body. Okay, I was going to follow up with some easy stuff for the neck. You guys can do this on your own. I'm going to go treat some patients now. And I'm going to try really to keep my body as effortless as possible throughout the treatment, because this helps people feel this touch of the effortlessness, and it makes them relax. So it's very important all the time to try to keep the body soft, and remember that the power comes from the softness, not from trying to do anything. Okay? I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.